It's the end of the playoffs, and solid, unmanaged linebackers are super scarce. So, first, let's address the potential high-reward play, Matt Milano. Milano's value is truly elite when he is on the field and healthy. For example, while he has dealt with a chest pectoral injury this season, he's 100% back in action, and his elite upside was on full display in Week 15 against the Patriots. He was able to play a full game and delivered a performance that let us know he's back, totaling 9 solo tackles, 1 assist, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. And as Coach McDermott put it, he was vibing out there. And even with some lingering bumps and bruises from his past, his Week 15 performance shows he's ready to play like an IDP stud once again. Next up, the Bills desperately need him. Starting middle linebacker Terrell Bernard is still struggling with an elbow injury and is also listed as questionable. And the Week 16 matchup against the Browns is arguably a top 5 spot for linebackers in all scoring formats. The Browns have and are still consistently ranked among the most generous teams to opposing linebackers, which leads to a high floor and ceiling for tackle production. So this week, Milano is a strong LB1 add for his potential Week 16 upside and a lock for your lineup. And in fact, that's whether or not Bernard is out or in this weekend. Next, let's look at a guy who provides consistent tackling volume, Christian Rosenboom. Rosenboom has quietly been a rock for the Panthers' defense this season, and he can deliver massive production. Rosenboom has tallied an amazing 91 combined tackles despite missing time with a hip-hamstring injury the last few weeks. He's back, and he's put up huge games this year, including an incredible 15 combined tackles earlier in the season, following that up with a 12-tackle outing. And since the Panthers gave the green dot to Trevin Wallace to call the plays on the field this year, it has allowed Christian Rosenboom to play with a lot more freedom as a sideline-to-sideline force. This week, the Panthers face the Buccaneers. This is generally a middle-of-the-road matchup, but critically, it is an extremely high-stakes game. Both the Buccaneers and the Panthers are 7-7 and tied for the NFC South lead. And with just a couple of weeks left, this match could be the deciding factor for the NFC South title and a playoff berth, which, as we know, drastically intensifies the action. So Rosenboom's high-volume role and sideline freedom make him a great bet for one of his double-digit tackle opportunities playing in this playoff atmosphere. Rosenboom is a reliable Tier 1 volume play and more than likely a safer LB1 over Matt Milano. Milano has not come close to putting together a solid and IDP season as Rosenboom has, so look for Rosenboom first, then Milano. And finally, we have the Giants' second-year linebacker, Darius Muasau. Muasau's value is all about his potential role this week, but the really key takeaway here is that he officially returned from his ankle injury and delivered immediate production in Week 15 against Washington. Before his injury, his usage was massive when he was on the field. In fact, he was seeing snap counts as high as 90% in some games, and he can deliver massive scores. And in his return against the Commanders in Week 15, he put up a great game. He recorded 5 solo tackles and 6 assists for 11 combined tackles, and that also came with 80% of the defensive snaps, which also means they didn't bother to ease him back in and 100% ready to go. And next, he gets the Vikings in Week 16. That is an excellent matchup that generates high tackle volume for opposing linebackers. Specifically, the Vikings have ranked as a top 10 matchup for linebackers in both scoring formats over the last month. So Muasau is a high upside LB2 gamble this week. If he gets the full snap share, he could easily deliver an LB1 game again, making him a priority deeper pickup. And he may be a deeper target, but he is definitely one that is worth more than a normal dart throw. We're turning our attention to the defensive backs for Week 16. So our top play for this week is Malik Mustapha of the San Francisco 49ers. Mustapha is a high upside option who has settled into a fantastic every down role, and he is a name we mentioned a few weeks ago. In fact, he came through for us when we did, and has been on a roll since then. Looking at his recent production, he has been on a tear since coming back from injury. Over his last 3 matchups, Mustapha has delivered elite IDP production, racking up 24 combined tackles.
That gives him an outstanding average of 8 combined tackles per game, and he capped off this run in Week 15 with 6 solo tackles and 4 assists versus the Titans, a dominant total that came in a matchup that wasn't even ranked good on paper. So overall, we're shocked his rostered percentage hasn't budged much. But the real reason he's a top play is his Week 16 matchup against the Colts. The Colts are the #1 opponent to target for safeties in IDP, and as always, one of our favorite matchups to target for undermanaged DB. The Colts offense is a perfect opponent for safeties because of their offensive scheming, and Phillip Rivers didn't exactly light it up in his first start last week. And once again, this leads to a high floor for tackles for Mustapha, who plays in the box. Mustapha offers a high tackle DB1 floor with game-changing big play upside. He is definitely our priority add this week for your playoff semifinals.
Next up for our safe choice, we have veteran Harrison Smith from the Minnesota Vikings. And Smith is the epitome of a potential high-floor safety, always near the line of scrimmage making plays. In fact, he continues to deliver solid IDP production, recently totaling 6 combined tackles, 3 solo, 3 assisted, and 2 passes defended in Week 15 against the Cowboys. And as always, his floor remains one of the most solid floors in the league. Plus, he rarely doesn't come through for us somehow. Now, regarding his matchup, the Vikings get the Giants this week. The Giants are a top 12 tackle-based opponent for safeties, which is exactly where Smith excels best. This is a favorable spot for safeties. Specifically, the Giants' offense often forces defensive backs into action, leading to a high number of tackle opportunities. So while Smith's ceiling isn't as high as Mustapha's, his reliability, plus the high-volume nature of the Giants' game, makes him a solid low-end DB1 with a strong potential upper-tier upside in this matchup. And finally, let's look at a really deep option who is also playing a full-time role, Isaiah Pola-Mao of the Las Vegas Raiders. He's a stretch, but Pola-Mao has quietly been an IDP workhorse, playing full-time in most of his recent games. The production is there too. He has delivered pretty decent fantasy value, tallying 15 tackles in his last 2 games, which is solid output for a deep pickup. So he has delivered unexpected but strong production when we've needed a desperate play in deeper formats. But the main focus is his Week 16 matchup against the Houston Texans. The Texans are currently the 11th ranked opponent against safeties in sack-based scoring over the last month, which is a highly favorable spot. In fact, Pola-Mao has delivered strong production in similarly ranked this format recently. He totaled 5 combined tackles in Week 14 against the 11th ranked Broncos, and then had a dominant 10 combined tackles in Week 15 against the 14th ranked Eagles. Specifically, the Texans often force their opponents' defensive backs to play near the line of scrimmage, giving Pola-Mao ample tackle opportunities. So he's locked down as a solid DB2 with upside this week, making Pola-Mao a great deep pickup. Kicking off our Week 16 IDP defensive lineman waiver wire by focusing on the most explosive defensive scenario, the Falcons' rookie CAG team of James Pierce and Jaylon Walker. First and foremost, James Pierce is your Tier 1 defensive lineman and a must-prioritize pickup. The rookie is proving to be a true sack specialist and is a must-start in all sack-heavy scoring formats. Pierce has averaged a healthy 60% of the snaps over the last few weeks, which is on par for most of the season. Crucially, he just came off a monster Week 15 performance where he saw a bump to 68% of the snaps versus the Buccaneers. In that game, he delivered an upper-tier DL1 outing by recording 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, and 3 combined tackles, proving he shows up when it counts in an extra important game. And he has straight-out had DL1 outings in sack-heavy formats over the last 6 weeks, recording 7.5 of his total 8 sacks in this stretch, making him the Falcons' rookie sack record holder. Moving on to his teammate, Jaylon Walker is your Tier 2 target. Walker is a versatile hybrid who has logged solid production this season. He is a solid deep DL2 target this week based entirely on the matchup upside. To be precise, Walker exited Atlanta's Week 14 loss early due to a quad injury, but he returned in Week 15, recording a half sack and 1 assist while seeing 60% of the defensive snaps.
But what makes him truly appealing is the sample we saw in weeks 9 through 12, when he was hitting his stride and playing slightly more than Pierce, averaging about 65% of the snaps. In that stretch, Walker totaled an incredible 17 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. For the season, Pierce has played 13 games and amassed 20 combined tackles, 8 for a loss, 8 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. Meanwhile, Walker, in 11 games played, has 32 combined tackles, 5.5 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles, along with 1 recovery, clearly showcasing his higher floor of the two in tackle-based formats. This leads us to the reason behind targeting this duo. The Week 16 matchup against the Arizona Cardinals is absolutely key. The Cardinals currently rank top 3 in allowing production to the edge rusher in tackle-based formats. Furthermore, they have also been a top half-ranked offense all season in sack-heavy scoring. The takeaway is simple. Pierce gives you the high-ceiling DL1 potential, while Walker gives you a safer DL2 floor with his proven big play potential. If you can only add one, prioritize Pierce, and you could use both if, for some reason, you're looking super deep. This is one of the best defensive line matchups of the week. If you need it, take advantage of it quickly because Week 17 doesn't look nearly as good against the Rams.
Now, let's look at a deep sleeper veteran who could surprise, Hassan Reddick. Before his recent setbacks, Hassan Reddick was once known as a stable DL1 and one of the more reliable edge rushers in fantasy football. Now, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he is a true boom-or-bust deeper play who is set up for a potential bounce-back game in Week 16. For context, after recording 4 straight double-digit sack seasons, his production plummeted in 2024. The reason was simple. His 2024 season was essentially lost due to an extended contract holdout with the Jets, causing him to miss the first 7 games and leading to a lack of acclimation and only 1 sack. Moving into 2025, his campaign has still been slowed. He recently missed 4 games due to an ankle and knee injury sustained in Week 7, which is the main reason his production is still low. Despite these issues, however, he is becoming one of the anchors of the Bucs' defensive front. Specifically, he has been steadily seeing a greater snap share, moving back up to around 70% in his last 2 games. This increased workload suggests the Buccaneers are finally trusting him as a full-time pass rusher. His production is tied to his health and usage, and his matchup this week is against the Carolina Panthers, a familiar divisional opponent. Regarding the matchup, in tackle-based formats, the Panthers are ranked top 5 in allowing production to edge rushers. Conversely, in sack-heavy formats, they are only in the middle of the pack. Splitting the difference, we have about a top 12 matchup overall for Reddick, making him a deep DL2 play with a touch of upside in this divisional matchup. He remains a deep long shot, and only if the waiver wire is really low on better DL pickups, like Jaylon Walker. And that wraps up our Week 16 defensive line targets. Go secure those top pickups for the elite matchup, and don't sleep on the upside veteran. And good luck in your playoff matchups this week. Thanks for watching.
They doubted us every step of the way, but we knew what we were capable of.